Hello, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful souls. This is the podcast and video series, It's Time to Remember. This complete transparent conversation, two souls meeting each other and going deeply into whatever conversation the energy opens for us. Today, I am very excited that Danish Kirsten Stendevad is with us today as the guest. And Kirsten is a woman I have known, might not be the right word actually, but I have known who is for quite some years. I feel actually since the very beginning of my personal development journey began. So way back when I was in the bank industry, the financial industry, sitting there as a banker, and I crashed with stress. And I started looking at myself in these little pieces, being like, is this really me? Oh, is that really my life vision? And you actually arrived completely in my field. And from that moment, I always had this feeling of my heart making a magnetic frequency with yours. I could just feel that pull, that I just resonated deeply, both with your looks and your energies and your shares and the way you share them. And for me, that was very extraordinary because I came directly from corporate life. All people wearing a suit. No woman was feminine in that financial world at that time. And ever since I have been meeting you afterwards, whether it has been to Kundalini or seeing your speeches or, wherever it is, we've actually met each other. I'm not fully sure. I've just always felt I've met such a deep presence of love and alignment and authenticity, which I acknowledge as being quite unique to meet again and again in this busy world where we can so easily be a little off that day and so on up until this point of time. But it's like the days that I have met you, even if you have felt off, that off has just been owned in the room. So it's not off at all, it's aligned. So beautiful angel, thank you so much for the honor of gifting us your time and your presence and your sacred energy of coming into this podcast and video today and sharing whatever may come through. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm the one thanking you, Sarah. It's such an honor, and I am a big admirer of your journey and your work. I've really seen your evolution, and it's very impressive how you have evolved very fast. You have gone through a big metamorphosis and keep doing it, and I just really, really appreciate your integrity and authenticity and you shining as a role model in the world. So it's a very big honor for me and great to have this time with you. It's a blessing to meet sister to sister and have the possibility of a heart-to-heart talk and share that with other sisters. So I'm very honored, and I'm very honored for the people who are listening, because I know their time and energy is also very precious in this busy world. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope that it will be worthwhile to listen to this. Yeah, you can come away with something that you can use directly in your life.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Amazing. So do you feel like just giving people a little share about if they've seen you before, where have they seen you, what are you working with, and who are you? Would that be okay?
Well, it depends on where you are from, because if you are from the Nordic countries, you might know me from my earlier concepts, which I've actually been in. I've been working with the future and the new paradigm for many years. Starting in New York, where I reported about the new paradigm thinking. That's many years ago. I lived in New York and worked for Scandinavian media as a US correspondent, and wrote about, where are we heading as a society? How can we get there? How can women take a different role in society, and so on? So some people in the Nordic countries might know me from all the way back then. Then when I came back to Copenhagen, I started writing books. So some people might know me from my early books, which was about how we can use networks and help each other more. Another book that I just told you about was my first solo book called Motherhood as a Career Booster. It's only available in Scandinavian languages so far. Then I wrote one for dads called Fatherhood is the Best Leadership Training Camp you can get, and it's free. And then I wrote a book for, then some people might know me from Denmark. I started a goddess school here in 2003 to experiment as a lab, experimenting with feminine power. What is the feminine power and what can it be used for? And one of the things I discovered was that when people access their feminine power, and at the time I mostly worked with women, they become incredibly creative and incredibly intuitive. And so they started getting so many business ideas that I could hear were so timely that I had to do something about helping them to unfold these ideas into businesses. Because otherwise we would just have stayed in the old-fashioned feminine, where we would just sit on the sidelines and not participate, but sit on the stands and comment everybody else's ideas. But I thought, no, we really have to turn these ideas into innovation. So that's why I had to create an entrepreneurial school for women, which I called the Millionaire School, which I co-created with a colleague, or actually somebody I knew from that goddess school. And so for many years I was known in Denmark as a pioneer of the new movement of womenpreneurs, soulpreneurs, mompreneurs. Was very, very on the forefront of that movement. And I would say that my colleague and I, we really inspired thousands of women to take back the reins of their career and create their own businesses that were in alignment with their own values, and be able to work from the heart with the passion and with the soul purpose and make a difference in the world while earning a living. So I've been a mentor for entrepreneurs for many, many years, since that time. And then some people might know me from, I also started a global goddess school and an international feminine leadership training. And some people in Europe might know me, or some people even from New York might know me from creating a big conference here in Denmark about feminine leadership, inviting Regina Thomashauer from the US to come here. It's her only performance outside of New York City or outside of the US. And I had 130 women come here from all over. And I remember we got an extra hotel bill from the conference room I had booked, because we spread boa feathers everywhere. Because we did big portraits of our yoni with glitter and feathers, and you were just going wild in that conference hotel. So I took out this huge extra bill because it took them so long to clean up afterwards, but we had a ball. So some people might know me from then, and then some people might know me from the time after 2012, because that was a very big shift for me in 2012. I am aligned with the Maya calendar. Something stopped there and something else started. So for me, it's not before or after Jesus, before and after 12. Because what happened for me in 12 was that actually it started in December 11. I was at the so-called peak of my so-called career. I don't know what you would call that, but in old-fashioned terms, you would say that. Everything was just galloping. I was considered this role model and front runner in Denmark and inspiring lots of people. My books had come out in the other Scandinavian languages, and I was giving talks in corporations about the new leadership and new paradigms, and I was being a mentor for entrepreneurs and teaching them how to have more money and more time, which was very popular amongst mothers. And I was teaching feminine leadership and inspiring women to take the lead and lead in alignment with their feminine essence. So everything was going very well, and I had a blossoming business and my 3 boys at home and my husband, and just like living the life of my dreams. And then suddenly a big shift came in. All of a sudden, like after 1 week of symptoms, my middle son turned out to have cancer. And not only cancer, but a highly aggressive, never before seen worldwide in a child, incurable cancer. And so my life shifted. It's like I felt like you've gone to the theater and you watch what's going on the stage, and then suddenly the stage sort of makes like this 180-degree shift, and then the scenery is completely different. And that's what happened to me. It's like my child was displaying these strange symptoms, just for a little week. And then we take him for a check and nobody can figure out what's going on. And after the 4th check, my husband says, it's Christmas tomorrow. Let's figure out what's going on here. So we took him to the hospital. The child goes into a scanner, and which is scary enough, that little body into this huge scanner. And when he comes out, there was a female doctor coming towards me. I could just see her in her face that something was terribly wrong. And so it burst out of me, is it serious? And she said, yes. And then it burst out of me, is it cancer? Because that's the most serious I could think of. And she said, yes. And that moment, that stage just completely transformed into a completely different world. Me, a child with cancer? I mean, what am I even doing in a hospital? I mean, it was the last thought I ever had. And that particular boy of mine was, was used to be my last problem, because he was such a leader. He was such a child he was like a sunshine. He was just like, and very independent and, always good energy and creative and vivid. And everybody loved this little kid, like strawberry blonde with freckles and just slightly naughty, but also just really a leader without a cause, I would say. And so, to have your last problem become your biggest problem, it's just such a shock. And so 2012 was like a marathon run and sprint, because that cancer was highly aggressive. I really had to do everything I could. And this story is very long, and I won't bore you with all the details, but I can just say, now that I know that both of us are very much into the yin paradigm and, all the alternative remedies and holistic thinking and all that. So of course I thought, this is just a test. After my initial shock, I thought, I need to show that, I just need to show that if you use the yin paradigm, you can cure this incurable cancer. So I thought, that's just a test. Let me take on that test. Watch me. So that same day, I had like an arsenal of alternative healing remedies brought to my child. Biomedicine, sound healing, crystalline, worldwide meditation with crystals on his chest. His tumor was in his chest. Homeopathy, all kinds of things. A healer that came every single day, and worldwide meditations, as I said. I even called the people. Have you ever seen that video where Greg Braden, he's talking about this method where 3 doctors are standing around a patient and they all visualize the tumor gone?
Yes.
Of course, I found those people and hired them, right? Get going.
Yeah.
So really, I was like unstoppable. I thought, this is our opportunity to show that there are alternatives to the yang paradigm of chemo and operation and so on. So I was really doing, my utmost. And I got the hospital who didn't believe in any of that kind of stuff. I got them to delay any kind of treatment for 14 days so I could have a chance to show that my remedies would work. And so after 14 days, they scan him again and they find out that the tumor has grown 50%. So much for my yin paradigm. And you have to remember, I had been teaching feminine leadership for a decade at that point. I'd been teaching about the power of yin. All my books were about the feminine future that I now wrote my latest book about. All my books were about the power of the yin paradigm. So it was like devastating for me. Oh my God, it doesn't really seem to work as of now. But then I thought, okay, maybe this is just, an initial healing crisis, where the symptoms get worse before they get better. So that was not going to stop me, but I had to also take in the yang paradigm, the chemo, the all those things. So to make a very long story short, I take my little kid. After a month, the Danish hospital says, well, we found out now that the cancer he has is so rare. It's never before been seen in a child. We have no idea where it comes from. We have no idea how to cure it. We just know that particular kind of cancer. All we know about it is that it's 100% incurable. So I said, come on. Can't say it's incurable. Give me some percentage. So they said, he has 0% survival chance. I said, come on, can't say 0. 0. I said, that can't be true. There must be some way. They said, well, okay. The only way is to go out there in the alternative jungle and find a miracle. And I said, miracles? That's my freaking specialty. Watch me. So I went out in that so-called alternative jungle. And a week later, I had found a miracle. I had found a miracle healer. He was out in the Philippines. He was known for his miraculous healings, just like Jesus. People would line up, on streets to come and see him. The miracle was that this guy was on his way to Europe. So a week later from that message, my whole family goes through his healings in Geneva, where he was located. And my son got special treatment, royal treatment, and got to see him every single day. The first day he got pain-free. The second day the color returned in his cheeks. And the third day we looked at each other and we sort of both thought, what are we doing here? Because you're fine. And then after that, my son was jumping around with more energy than anybody else. Just to give you an example of and of course we did a lot of other things, a lot of alternative things. But what happened after particularly that session was that all our other things started to really work. And this guy said, don't stop the conventional treatment because I don't want responsibility for that. So, but just to give you an example, before that treatment, when he had chemo treatment, he, the immune system goes completely down. They're very aggressive with kids because kids have such strong bodies, so they really smash chemo into them so that they can really smash the cancer. But it's a very, very hardcore treatment for children. So before that treatment with the Jesus kind of guy, the miracle guy, his immune system would just go like completely to zero. So he could have died from a cold. After that treatment, when he received chemo, his immune system was beyond normal, above normal. Just to say, the power of energy, that was actually very affirming to experience. But his tumor was still there, so we had to keep finding alternative remedies, and we did also find like a very innovative method in Austria, just also a miracle guy who prayed for his patients 6 times a day, who cared, he always had all these, impossible cases, and he cured many of them. With this, he's creating like this machine. He built a machine like 15 meters underneath the earth, where he could do energy. He would shoot the energy from the healthy cell onto the energy of the sick cell, and then the sick cell cannot stand that high frequency, so it collapses. So we took that treatment, and I put all the family through that treatment because I thought if it's something with us that made him sick, I really took responsibility for all 5 of us. We just went through all those treatments, all of us. And then we came back to Denmark, and we actually celebrated that he was cured. And it was like Sunday, June 10, and I was looking at the doctor in Austria was so dedicated. He followed us he took the plane with us to make sure that the child was well. And at that time, my child was very weak because the tumor was still alive and active and aggressive. So he had gone more weak from the treatment. But on Sunday, June 10, on 2012, I celebrate that we won over this incurable cancer, and we found miracle after miracle. And that the yin paradigm actually worked. And then on June 11, he looks a little bit pale, my son, so we take him to the hospital just to check. And I remember it was my husband taking him, and I finally sit down and to work. You know how it is as a mother, right? You finally get 5 minutes. So you sit down and work. And, I was just paying these enormous hospital bills every single day for private hospitals. So finally I sit down to sort of try to earn some money to be able to pay for all this. And then my husband calls and he says, you have to come. And I'm like, come on. I finally have 5 minutes. He says, they say he has half an hour left. So then I don't know, fly to the hospital. And my son is in complete weakness. He's getting blood transfusion. And I'm lucky that he wakes up and sees me. And the hospital says, call the family. He's not going to be there tomorrow. And I'm like, come on, we just cured him from cancer. We just tested him with this amazing equipment that was developed by NASA. We had NASA. We had this biomedicine woman who treated him, who could measure. There was no cancer cells. There was no trace of cancer in his body. With this equipment she had measured. So it was like, what's the problem? He doesn't have cancer anymore. And then we called Austria and we said, what's going on here? And he said, well, probably when the tumor sort of collapsed, it started bleeding into the lungs, and now his lungs are filling up with blood, so you have to get the hospital to empty his lungs with blood. But here's an interesting thing, and this is why this story might be, relevant to share for many reasons. But one of the reasons is that the traditional Danish hospital system, and I believe this is the same in many places on earth right now, is so focused on conventional medicine. And so I would say also, very inspired by the pharmaceutical companies and their treatments and the conventional way of doing things. The medical industry is a very, very big industry, lots of lobbyists. So everything that is from the alternative yin paradigm sort of doesn't count. I mean, they really don't take it seriously. And they say, well, it hasn't been proven, and so we can't take it in. So, whenever I came with my son into the hospital, and they said, whoa, you can really see he's doing well. And then they really added, but whatever they said to us, whatever you're doing seems to be working, but we don't want to know what it is. So I was like, wow, you don't want to know what it is? You don't want to know it so that other parents can benefit from this, or other patients? They were not interested. And I think this is because the medicine industry for so long has been embedded in that old yang paradigm, and really it's such a big part of them. Everything has to be proven and tested, and that of course has absolute value, but then sometimes that's not enough, and in our case it hadn't been enough. But the Danish hospital did not want to believe that we had cured him from cancer, so they refused to help with healing these side effects. And so on June 12, 2012, I had to witness that my dear little child, 7 years old and 4 months, he couldn't get the help he needed, so he actually drowned. So I lost my precious little boy the day after I thought I had cured him from incurable cancer. And so, as you can imagine, that's such a big shift in so many ways. The shift, of course, as a mother and as a person, am I now the mother of a deceased child? Unbelievable for me. Unbelievable. Would never, ever have entered my mind that this is even possible. I mean, before, I didn't even know that children could get cancer. So, and then my child, my healthy child, brought up on Udo's choice and, spilled flour. And I mean, how could this happen? And, I even taught him, I taught him remedies like Ho'oponopono. Even before he got ill, he would always be teasing me, I think you need to do Ho'oponopono now, Mom. When I was yelling at other people in the traffic or something like that, he would always so he was a very conscious child. I mean, how could a conscious child with all these, brought up on health food and self-help remedies and doing yoga with me, and how could he get cancer? I mean, it was beyond me. And how could he die from it just after I healed him, or he got healed by all these remedies? Such a shock. And I tell this because people might also know me from, many people in Denmark, I'm sure, know me from this experience, because I've talked a lot about it, because it has been very transformative for me, and something that I have learned tremendously from. I always tell people that your mentor can only take you as far as that person has been herself or himself, right? So when he died, there were many people who said to me, "Yeah, it's interesting what you need to learn from that. Why did you create that? What was it that you couldn't learn in a normal way?" And I think that's a little bit a narrow way of seeing it. But because I don't feel that it's because I didn't listen closely to it's not because I didn't pay attention to life before. But what I can say is that I learned something from that experience that I couldn't have learned in any other way. And that's the beauty about life experiences, good and bad, and everything in between, or what we regard as good and bad, and everything in between. Is that it teaches us something that we can't learn in any other way. And that's what I learned from that experience, that there's something, this is a bridge you don't cross voluntarily. But I had to. And when I crossed that bridge, a different world opened for me. It's very metamorphosis, it's like death and rebirth. And so many people might know me from the time after, where I have actually really, it's been a very different era for me after that. And very big difference from the sort of the persona, or the sort of, you could say, from a business perspective, the brand I had before, which was much more Fifi Longstocking, happy-go-lucky style, always, amazed at what we could manifest and create, and, with this encouraging message, go for your dreams. And, I had this slogan at the Goddess School, realize your dreams with pleasure. Mm. And at the Millionaire School, the slogan was, achieve more time and more money at the same time. So it was very much about, creating this great lifestyle of our dreams. And then afterwards, the message became quite different. I actually had to diss my old brands. I could not have the same message or the same brands anymore. I actually had to start all over and reinvent myself. And it was very difficult, because I didn't know. I just knew the night he died, I knew I was a completely different person with a completely different message. I still didn't know what the message was. I just knew everything has changed now, but I didn't know into what. And I would actually say it has taken me years to, it's like, the stage again, 180 degrees. And then it has taken me years to find out what was actually, who did I become? And what is my contribution in this new form? And how can I serve in this new form? And serving became like a zillion times more important for me, because I don't want my son to have died in vain. It has to matter for me. It had mattered to me, but I wanted to serve the world. I wanted to have some significance that can be useful for humanity. Nothing more, nothing less. Because it was so big for me that I want to contribute in such more big manner. So devoting myself to service rather than me having a great life. I mean, I do have a great life, and I have a fantastic life, and I never thought I could have that kind of life after this experience, but I have really, really experienced that. Some people might know me from my slogan, why that I didn't invent it myself, but I have lived it, which is why go down when you can go up, which is something that was said by a Danish seer, and I read it in a book, and I thought about that night. Why go down when I can go up? I don't want to go down and take my family with me and all my students and all my, no. I want to go up instead of down. And so that became a very big part of my new message. I do trainings on transforming crisis into quantum leaps. I do leadership training, illuminary leadership. I do future leadership, lead the future. I've written a book called The Future's Feminine, which is coming out in English. It's a 21 book. Another book on illuminary leadership coming out also in English now. So very transformative and very big experience, and it's taught me a lot that has prepared me, I believe, to serve much better and from a much more profound place in the new era. So that was a long answer to your question. Who am I?
Thank you so much for sharing this. I am literally sobbing here. I actually need to just pause this a quick moment and grab some paper for my eyes and my nose, and I'll get right back, honey. One moment. Whew. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's so interesting because, of course, I know what happened and that you lost your son, because it's, as you say, a big part of your story, and you have done extremely well in sharing that during the years that I have known who you are. But I've never heard this angle of it or this depth of it before, and it touches me so much. And I feel like the share that you just made here, of course, that is, you experienced the biggest fear of every mother's heart. And another layer of what I experienced through listening to your share now is actually that I feel like you just completely explained and showed a mirror to how I feel I would behave would that be me. And I feel like many spiritual mamas would go that path, yeah. And so to have that element of actually seeing your life work, your deepest belief, your core truth work in the matter where you are celebrating it, and then be, deep apologies if I'm saying these words incorrectly, but then be locked in a system where the absolute last moment of help is not being given, and therefore you lose your diamond in this ordinary world, of course, and the knowing that in the transition, and I know you still have deep connection to the soul, but it's a massive loss and sorrow, of course, no matter what, yeah. And I'm sitting with this very human question inside of myself, and that is, how did you possibly manage not to go down the path of deepest resentment and anger towards that system, that hospital, that weren't willing to do that thing that you asked at the very end of emptying the lungs, if I understood it correctly. The resentment question, how did you work with that? Can I ask you that?
Yeah, of course. Well, to use a term from your old bank world, I'm sure they have read that book in the bank world. I just knew that is a tunnel with no cheese. I really knew that I just knew. And first of all, I knew that. I just knew that. You know, the feminine power is to know. You don't need to explain it. You just know. I just knew in my heart that is the path of the most suffering. And I could not afford more suffering. I had plenty as it was on my plate. So I thought, first things first. What is first? I am a mother and I have 2 other children. At the time, they were 2 and 10. My 10-year-old just lost his best friend, which was his brother. You know, from all the pictures we have since my middle son was born, they're like a pair, like yours will be, right? You know, A and B, you know, they're always a pair. You see them two. So they were a pair. So he just lost the other half. He just lost his best friend. So that was my primary concern. That was, you know, and that as a mother, you don't think so much about you know you need oxygen yourself, but you know you need that because you have a very precious cause that is very important and very urgent, and that is the care for your children. And I specifically, that night my son died was a very transformative night for me because first of all I felt like I got this cosmic, you know, with a not very nice word, you know, that F finger from the cosmic. I was like, whoa, I did all the right things. I was arguing with God. I did all the right things. I didn't succumb to my fear. I focused on the vision. I did not dwell in drama. I focused on my vision. You know, even when I got all these horrible messages, I was so disciplined at keeping my eyes focused on that 0.5% chance of survival, even that 1/4% chance. I did not allow myself to go, you know, to cultivate the fear because I knew that would be the recipe for more fear and, you know, I could not afford it. I could not afford to waste that 1/4 chance on being fearful. So of course I felt it in my belly sometimes. I mean, sometimes my body would tell me, this is very bad. This is very, very serious. You really need a miracle. And more than that. So my body would know, but I used all my resources at focusing on that 1/4% chance of survival. So I was very, very conscientious. I was very conscious about do not waste that time. So that chance. So I focused on that. So I thought I did all the right thing. I was positive. I was cheerful when my son was talking about, you know, you know, what's happening? I feel so weak. And I was like, well, I understand, of course, because you are very ill, but I always lifted him up, always brought a light perspective, you know. But right now we're in the process of so and so, and then afterwards will happen so. So I always, you know, I always lifted his spirit and always had him focus. I said, we need to be open, but we are doing everything we can. And so when he died that night, I felt like I was fooled by the universe. I was like, hello, I did all the right things, and this is my reward. I was in shock. And curiously, there was a big piece of the so-called law of attraction and all the universes. So there was a big piece I had not understood at all. Big part of my curriculum that started there. And where I can honestly say that I think a lot of the sort of, you can say, new paradigm or new age teachers are really, really, I could really sense, oh my God, there's a lot of, I think that this environment has matured a lot since, but at the time, this is now 9 years ago, there was a lot of immaturity in that community, and there was many teachers who were saying, there's nothing you can't be or do or have, and you can grow new limbs, and you can and yeah, you can if you're meant to do that. But sometimes you're not meant to do that, and so I really had troubles also with this whole cultivation of the law of attraction, where it was like, well, you created that yourself, you attracted that, so what were you thinking to attract that, that I had to deal with. But you asked a question, and I'll try to stick with the question. So you asked, how could you not go into resentment, and I knew that was not the correct path. That was not the place to put the little energy I had left after fighting for so long, was not going to be used on that. First things first. So that night I had to get a cosmic F finger, and I don't understand anything, but I make a decision, Sarah, and here's the important thing, and I really want the listeners, if they didn't take nothing else away from this talk, the power of a decision. I made a decision to go up instead of down. And I made that decision because I thought it's too early for my other kids to lose faith in a happy ending.
Yes.
It's too early to lose that faith. It's too early to lose the hope in life. It's too early to stop believing that life can, that life can have all these beautiful happy endings. So I decided I will go up instead of down, and I'll take them with me. So that was my focus, and that was my energy, and I had no idea how to do it, but I can really, really witness now, Sarah, and this is my really important message today, the power of a decision. It's really true that the universe aligns to that. And you could say that before I had decided that I would make my son survive, but that life and death is God's business. But I could decide how I would go about it. And the same thing here, when God had made, and my son's karma apparently was different from what I had imagined. And I didn't know that, I didn't know that you can't steal other people's karma. You can't steal the person's soul path.
No.
You can't. I talked to so many people after he died because I really wanted to understand. So I interviewed people from, I called up people from different faiths. None of them said I could have any influence.
No.
And I think the Tibetan lamas who said, you cannot stop a soul who's scheduled to go back.
No, exactly.
You can't. So that's why I didn't waste my energy on fighting the system. But I will speak openly about it now, because now I have gathered some more strength, and I will really say, this is one of the things that needs to change. We are having this talk in the middle of COVID, right? So why do we not take this opportunity as societies to become hyper aware of how we can strengthen our immune system? How can we strengthen our immune system? How can we become healthier? How can we help each other become healthier? How can we get healthier societies where people can flourish? That would be a very good topic for, that would be a very good opportunity to turn crisis into quantum leap. So, now maybe there is a more maturity in the system to understand that if we only use our yang muscle, we are missing out on our full potential. And of course we will have problems. Of course we can't heal. Of course we can't this, that, and the other. So I will speak up about it now. But I need to gather my strength and use it for what was most important.
That makes such good sense. Thank you so much for going down that question with me. And And there's several things that arrives here with me while listening and experiencing you sharing this. And the first thing I experience is, that first hand, front row witness of that feminine leadership that I know, and you have also shared now that you have been working with so much, to step into the motherhood of the two that was still there and be that mother instead of becoming the sorrow, with a decision. Like really, really, really powerful thing to remember. And that decision, no matter what we are facing, is always ours to have, no matter what cards life circumstances has handed us. And in the shamanic perspective, which is my way of seeing things, shamanic actually just being in our Nordic lands, the ancient Vulva wisdom, the woman that knows, the seer. And in that world, there is this phrase that's called the rite of passage. The rite of passage is considered to be a very sacred portal that is beyond the willpower of a human, so to say. It's beyond our control. And there's two gateways where it is destined to happen. And the one is the birth portal, when a woman goes from maiden to mama. Deeply changed, deeply transformed. No way of knowing how would that portal be, how would I be and feel afterwards. And the other is the death portal. So the loss that goes so core deep, rite of passage. Whatever the soul had to have a shift for, no ability not to be that shift after that, out of control. Does that resonate with you, dear?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is definitely, I find that there's a lot of rites of passages in our lives, and if we honored, the more we could get more aware of all the richness that it brings. Because as yourself, I've experienced, transition from woman to mother was a big one. And actually, I decided to write a whole book about it because I was so, no, because I thought there's something not right in society. When we look at women who become mothers, we park them somewhere career-wise, and in terms of contribution, we were like, oh yeah, see in a few years, right? So we sort of ignore what is happening in those few years. The woman is speed learning so many skills that happen to be the exact skills that we need in the new society. And why is no one talking about that? I mean, I have to publish that book in English again because it's much more timely now. It's from 2000. I wrote it when my son was born in 2000. When I got pregnant in 2001, and came out in Denmark here in 4. So it's actually very old, but it's much more timely now. And so that transition, you learn so much from that transition. And now I can say that experiencing death and other crises in our lives, every crisis is a rite of passage. And you always get the invitation, will you go up or down? Because if you just follow the natural law of gravity, it's very easy to go down from a crisis, especially if you've had a few. It's very easy, and that's the most obvious way. And if you do, no one will blame you. I remember somebody said to me, she couldn't believe that 3 months after my son had died. I mean, first of all, I kept doing my courses, which people didn't understand, but I was like, I do that because because serving is healing. And people got so much. I was sharing very, very abundantly and transparently what I learned, and people say it was really very enriching for them. So I thought, as long as it enriches and it serves, then it feels right to do. But yeah, I really feel that you always get the invitation if you follow the law of gravity. And people at that time said, if you just check out and stop running your business, we understand. Why don't you take a break? And I was like, no, my dedication to service just got 1,000 times stronger. And my ability to be a mentor just got 1,000 times stronger and better. So I will not stop working. I will amp up my service. And this is really what I'm very committed to now. So yeah, all those rites of passages, if we choose to go up instead of down, it's a huge expansion. So with motherhood, for example, a lot of people focus on how it limits you, how you can't do this, that, and the other anymore. And that is a fact. There are certain things you just can't. You have somebody who depends on you. You can't just ignore that. And the people who tried, they sort of see later, well, that was not such a smart idea. But if you focus on the expansion, you will notice, whoa, I got so much bigger. I can handle so much more. I got so much better at stress handling, at managing chaos, at being creative, at being versatile, at being agile. In the companies, they're now talking about, you need to be agile. Well, hello. Have mothers been agile from the beginning of time? Yes or yes? We don't need to learn to be agile. We are freaking agile every single moment of our motherhood. So, no, thank you. We don't need to learn agile leadership because we know exactly what that means.
So true. So true. And that's very interesting, because I love that you're saying both the up and down and everything you have shared. The thing I want to grab of it right now is the thing where you say that motherhood can feel limiting for many, and the focus of that can be the shiniest thing ever.
Mm.
And that is so true. And I have deeply felt that myself. To be very honest, I have Bella that's 2.5 years. She will be free in like 4 months. And I have the next on the way that also can come in 4 months or so. And I really, in all honesty, has been in such a growth of the expansion and the limit, the expansion and the limit, the expansion and the limit on a very daily basis of my energy, of my resources, of my capacity to, be standing and active, versus laying down and resting, that constant grow, expanding limit, grow, expanding limit. And it's now, when Bella is soon to be free, where I'm actually feeling, now I feel I have the hand on the wheel on this in a way. Now I feel like, oh, the household, I found a rhythm that works now. Finally. Okay, with all of that thing, that I found my way of doing that. So it also feels good now. And I feel like the yin and the woman, heart and mind and spirit up until this point of time, can be very good at looking at own mistakes and own failures and own, lack of ability, and I don't have enough energy to do this, and I don't have the skill to be as good as I wish to be. What's wrong with me? If I could just be a little better, have a little more energy, a little more arms and legs and so on. But that time, that softness and capacity and willingness to tap into the knowledge of the time we need sometimes in transition to grow and learn what we need to do in that, you know? That for me has been a big part of the motherhood. That's the heart leadership, you could say. And when that being said, I want to be very honest, because even though I feel like, okay, I'm actually in a very good place in my motherhood right now and household and all of that, this knowing that the next baby comes in a moment scares me a little, because I'm like, oh, I hope I have the capacity to still have the energy for everything that is being a mother, being a mama to two, being the one hosting everything in the house. And when I say that, I mean cooking and cleaning and making the nest beautiful, while also working, being, a woman in business, having her own, inspiring. So it's the leadership that's in full expansion and on limit. And it feels like having the ship in kind of stormy weathers, yeah, where the sun might come up, but in a moment it can be stormy again. So how to navigate that? So I really, with that subject having awakened in me, I really adore what you are saying with the choice as well. Because even though only few people have experienced the depth of the sorrow of the rites of passage and the loss that you experienced there, that wisdom there can be used in every single mother leadership in every house, I feel. Because it's such a wild, wild, wild experience for many of us up until this point of time. Yeah.
Yeah, and the good news for you is that mothers used to be pretty alone in that universe of being with children that change every 5 minutes, right? So now you say, now I found a rhythm. Well, in 4 months, everything is going to change. New rhythm. Oh, now I found a rhythm. Well, now your child starts crawling, the young one, and the old one starts, whatever. So the rhythm, I mean, that is what mothers know after a little while. They know, oh, I just found a rhythm, and dang, everything changes. But here's the good news. From now on, you will not be alone in that, because all of society is going to experience exactly the same thing. We're not returning to the industrial age where everything is aligned in rhythms where we save as much time as possible and we produce as much as possible in the shortest time. That those sets of rules are obsolete. We are entering a new game with a completely new set of rules. And one of the new rules is that we just have to get used to change as, we have to get what Einstein and others have been telling us all along. Change is the only constant in the universe. And the way we get it faster now is because change, the pace of change has accelerated, and it's accelerating exponentially from here. So from now on, mothers are not in that boat alone. They will be the leaders because they know how to navigate those waters, because they're forced to every single day. So if that can be if that can be an encouraging piece of news for you, is that because in the industrial age, women felt that they were parked in a corner when they had children, and the rest of society was like a train just racing by, and you were lucky if you got back on the train at some point, or you could try to get on the train while holding a stroller and breastfeeding someone. Just really very difficult situation.
Well said. Such a good point.
Yeah.
Such a good point, and I feel like that's a great reminder both for me and maybe many of the women listening.
Hmm.
And that adaptive
Hmm.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be great for mothers to experience that the new career is no longer a ladder; it's more like a chessboard. So then you can actually, I actually would say this: a mother like yourself who takes her time to be a mother in the first few years of her children's life has no idea what a precious gift she's giving not only to herself and her children, but to society as a whole. For me, that is starting to be true feminine leadership. Taking the time to do what's most important, not for the short run, for the long run. That investment in presence with your children, presence, heart, soul with your children, will never come negatively back. It will always only throw off dividend after dividend after dividend. So why do we as society race ahead? Why do we have norms that tell mothers to leave their children 2 weeks after birth to go work for some corporation to earn more money from some anonymous shareholders? It makes no sense at all. And fortunately, we're seeing that women are increasingly saying, no, thank you. I cannot get myself motivated for that task. So feel free, if you are guys who want to do that, go ahead. I'm going to invent my own business just like you did yourself, where I do something meaningful that is in alignment with my feminine essence. Or I'm simply going to live very simply so I don't have to earn so much money because that is so important for me to be with my children. And I would say I'm sure that many from the new generation will choose to live like that because they have looked at us, especially Generation X, and thought, okay, that was really a great gain you got there from your so-called liberation. What did you get out of your so-called liberation? 68 liberation? You got imprisoned, locked into a paradigm of having to work more, earn more, like a hamster wheel of outwards looking success that didn't feel like success on the inside. And they're going to turn that upside down. And you're one of the pioneers of that generation. And your children, hello, they're not even good. They're not even going to have this conversation. They will think it's very cute that we had it.
Yeah. I feel that it's very, very
No, true. I mean, they are like, what were you even thinking of that kind of thing?
Yeah, so spot on, and I deeply, deeply agree. And that has actually been the reason why I really wish to have the whole motherhood and the whole family chapter in Bali, which did not end up happening though up until this point of time. I can still navigate. Let's hope it does at a point, if for the highest light. But it's that time field, and the time field for me, it's very interesting because I'm realizing while we're talking here that I was home with Bella until she was 1.5. When we finally said, okay, we'll find like daycare to her, it was because it was so clear that it was my need, that I had a child that was like home, because I had the most social, extroverted child that just loved to be with people and that needed much more activity than what we could give. And she has loved that daycare so much, and she manifested like a yoga place, singing ball place, straight from the government. It wasn't even like a private thing, and it was the opposite of what we were looking for. It just turned out to be this brilliant solution. But now because of the whole lockdown element and the restriction and all of that, the energy of, I feel, many places, even though they have been extraordinary, some of them, is just gone. Yeah, because people are tired. the daycare people, they're tired. They are out in the cold all day. It's smaller teams, and so now she's actually really starting to be like, Mom, I don't want to go. And we've chosen to listen to that. Like we are not delivering a crying angel at all. It's like, okay, then we go home again. And I'm very, very, very grateful to have been able to only put her in for like a few hours a day. And also in this time, just be okay. Then we navigate the meeting we have, and we navigate the daily schedules to the evening schedules when she's tucked in and all of that. And that navigation skill, I feel like, is such a precious resource also, that we weren't gifted in the old paradigm, in that structure, but that everyone is suddenly gifted now, because no one is in that square box anymore, because people have to work from home in these chapters. From their work, even though, if they are entrepreneurs or not, it's like it's homebound now, and that gives kind of a flexibility, at least to shifting from day to evening. And then it's a matter of, do we thrive on that? Who is that a match to the essence of who I am and all of that? And one thing that I'm really thinking a lot about when it comes to motherhood and the leadership of that, in my own home, it's that ability to actually remember that we are all super different. Also in the family, we all have super different needs. And that the leadership here is also to make sure that all needs are taken care of in a way. So mama's needs are not completely gone, because that bill that comes afterwards is, it's the tiredness, where it's like, oh, where is the energy? Because all life force energy has just left the building. So that massive navigation skill of the feminine leadership, is there any school that can learn us that as motherhood?
Yeah, to navigate with, you're asking if there's any school like motherhood that can teach us that.
Yeah. And I don't have the answer, but it's a question in my mind, like, whoa, what a growth.
Yeah,
it really is. Yeah.
And you could say that there's something that's on the women's own shoulders, and I think it helps a lot for women themselves if they think of themselves as leaders.
Yeah.
And especially now, because the feminine leadership is so freaking needed. And here I really, really get agitated, because feminine leadership has gone from nice to have to urgently need to have now, from everybody on the planet, even the men, or even the binary people. It is imperative that we all start using our feminine side, because it's the only thing that's going to save this planet. We are in such imbalance that we absolutely need to really vote on the feminine by all means, and in all our actions and deeds and so on. We really need to press the feminine speeder now in order to bring the world back into balance. So that all the skills that are also built into men have just as much feminine energy. I mean, they have a lot of access to it. It's not that it's for women only, but we really need to use it now. It's not enough to talk about it or to think about it as something that is for the home situation or reserved to parenthood. Is absolutely needed in every single deed in the society. So so there's a lot of things that women can do themselves. They can think of themselves as leaders in small and big tasks. I'm a leader of myself. I'm a leader of my child. I'm a leader in my family. I'm a leader in my relationship. I'm a leader in society. I'm a leader in my business if I have a business. But my vote, my everyday vote, my every thought, my every feeling, my every action is leadership and contributing to the whole. So what I choose to think or feel or act is all contributing to the big C of the whole. So I must take, and sometimes if I can't do it for me, I can do it I can do it for my children. So I can chip in, just like when my son died, I was like, okay, I have to go up instead of down because I have responsibility to my other children to show them the upward movement, to go up to seek the light instead of dwelling in the darkness. I have a responsibility. They look to me as a role model, as somebody who knows how to live life. I must show them, look for the light, seek the light. And the same thing as mothers, even if we're tired and this, that, the other, well, allow yourself, surrender. Surrender is a beautiful quality too. And allow yourself to ask for help. Allow yourself to expect that someone will also mother the mother. And if the husband doesn't have this idea himself, he can be invited gently to remember. Right? Your podcast is called Remembering, right? Well, it's a good little piece to play for the men. Remembering also to mother the mother. Because you get so much more when you do that. A man who understands that if he gives to the feminine, if he supports the feminine, if he nourishes the feminine, he's going to get tenfold back. If he understands it, he has to, of course, remember, he can only do it from his masculine. If he starts doing it from feminine, it's get wobbly. But from a straight spine and this masculine energy, if he supports and protects and nourishes the feminine, he's going to get so much more back. So it's a very good investment for a man. And I would really like to see us stand for that as women and as progressive men, so that we can create a society where that is normal. Where it's normal, and I'm not only talking about Nordic countries, because we are so blessed in the Nordic countries. It's not perfect societies, but we're very advanced compared to many other places on the planet. But I'm really speaking on behalf of the whole, because we have so many places on the universe, and on this planet, where motherhood is not really regarded as so sacred that you really need to take care of it. You need to take care of the circumstances for a mother. You need to give the mother good circumstances to be a good mother, because society will save so much money and so much trouble afterwards if you give the mother good conditions to raise healthy citizens, as trauma-free as possible, or at least with the ability to heal their own traumas. We might as well. It's a much better investment. So we as leaders must demand that from now on. No more accepting societies that do not nourish the mother and the children. Hello.
That is so true. Oh, I love the way you say things, you speak things. It comes from a very, very strong energy. This might actually be the podcast and video we have done in this where I am saying the least. And I'm a talker, I'm a communicator. I'm just listening with such an awe of you. And I am experiencing it. I am like fully in it. That's a shamanic energy to bring the field into it. The last thing I really wanna know a little more about is, so you say that your book is coming out in English, and it's like a new version of it, and it's called The Feminine is
The Future is Feminine.
The Future is Feminine. Yes. Would you mind sharing a little of that?
I would love to. It's my favorite topic. That and leadership. Leadership. I think I'm going to be speaking about that for the next 10 years, because I think this decade that we have just entered, we're having this podcast in the beginning of 21, and this coming 10 years are so crucial for our evolution as humanity. And many people ask me, so what do you mean the future is feminine? What do you mean? Does that mean that we don't need the masculine anymore? And that's not what I mean. But I mean that we come from an era that has been very dominated by the masculine, more particularly patriarchy, where it's a certain organization of certain hierarchy where you regard, it's like it comes actually from many years ago, and it has lived its time. It's no longer relevant to organize society around a patriarch who is dictating the rules for all the other people, and it's old-fashioned, it's obsolete. We have shifted. It's a new era, and in the new era, there's a different set of rules. And what we are heading towards is, of course, unity, oneness. That's where we're heading. But we are not there yet. And in order for us to get there, to get from patriarchy to unity and oneness, we need a phase where we really, really unfold and emphasize the feminine. Because right now we are operating from sort of an incomplete way of using our resources. So we know a lot about the distorted masculine, the old-fashioned masculine, and the distorted feminine, the old-fashioned feminine, which was the weak, the passive, and then the old-fashioned masculine was the dominating, the tyrant, the ruler. So we know a lot about that. We've been there, done that. And now we're in a phase where we're experimenting, and the young ones are experimenting a lot with gender and figuring out, the masculine is not just for men, the feminine is not just for women. Thank goddess, we all have access to all those resources. And we're also figuring out that we can practice conscious leadership. Sometimes, we can be in our body like it is, and then we can grab the energies that we need. So sometimes we need a masculine energy, sometimes we need a feminine energy. So we're learning that now. But still, the feminine, as you know, you work with the feminine mystique. So you know that the feminine is hidden. We can just look at the genitals, right? It's mystical. It's what is happening with what is the feminine? We can see the tip of the iceberg. We can't see the whole, and we don't really understand what it is because it's invisible. It's working with the invisible. So we need a period of time where we discover what is the feminine in order for us to be able to really use those resources. And not only what is the feminine, but what is the healthy feminine? And how do we use the healthy feminine to transform the masculine so it becomes a healthy masculine? And then those two energies can dance together and form a union, a healthy union. So there's a learning time, there's a transition time where we need to understand this. And that's what my new book is about. And that's what my work is about. That's what, my leadership training, I help people unfold that in themselves, because most people come from many years, at least now, many of the leaders I work with, they come from years of training how to flex the masculine muscle. When women enter the workforce, the first thing they learn on the first day is that it would have been better if you would have been a man, but now that you're not, at least learned how to behave like a man. Because that's the only way you can have success in corporate life or as an entrepreneur. Learn to think like a man, learn to feel like a man, or not feel. Better if you don't feel anything, because then, it's just distraction. It's distracting with feelings. So if you could just think, focus, act, press on the action speeder, the speeder, and just go for your goals, that would be the best. And then if you have feelings and all that, it's fine. You can do that in your free time with your family. So that's fine. Just don't talk about it at work, please. Because we have more important things to do, because we're here to earn money and we're here to grow and make growth, so and so much growth for the next quarter. So zip it about your feelings, about an intuition, please. We only work with tangible things here. We only work in a realistic manner. So intuition, that is for your weekend courses. Don't bring that to work. That's how the paradigm has been until now. So women have learned, oh my goddess, I better shut down, my body, don't to talk about my hormonal system. I have to hide if I'm pregnant, and just act like a man. So the women I get into my leadership training, they need to relearn. Hey, hello, psst, you're a woman, and your biggest key to success, especially in the new era now that the rules of the game have changed, is actually your feminine strength, your feminine powers. So no more suppressing them, no more limiting yourself. Unfold it. You need to unfold it. So that's what's happening with the women. And the men, I'm getting more and more men also who are exhausted from trying to be macho men and displaying traits that they don't really feel aligned with, that are not in line with their values. You have a modern man, I'm sure it was nothing that he's not going to sacrifice his heart on the altar of his career. It doesn't really feel right anymore. But men also need, to unlearn the norms that they come from and learn, to use all of themselves. Yes, you can be a man and use your heart. It's okay. It's actually preferable, strongly preferable, because then you stop damaging the planet and start healing the planet. So please bring your heart to work. Please bring your intuition, because if you don't, you cannot navigate in such a fast-paced world. You cannot see clearly in an information overloaded society. So you have to learn to use your intuition so you can navigate, and so on. So we need some training and relearning, and that's why we need an era that is where there's more emphasis on the feminine until we get it, so that we can use both of our muscles in an equal manner and have them upgraded to the newest version. So that's why the future is feminine. It's the immediate future, and the future is not only feminine. We need to learn how to dance between the masculine and feminine. But because we come from such feminine, masculine overdrive, we need some emphasis on the feminine so that we can get into this balanced world. So I feel very blessed to be part of this movement that you're also part of. You don't talk about it in the same way, but your work is also about this. And I'm sure that many of our listeners, in one way or the other, are also part of this movement. And it's a blessing to be alive at this time and to get to contribute to this. And I find myself, I probably am one of the messengers of this. If many people say when they read my book that, oh, something clicks. It's like all these concepts and, all these, what is it, the change from the old era to the new era, and what is the masculine, what is the feminine, and what is men, what is women, all these, like the egg and the hen, all these, this mess. They say I tidy up in this mess and make it very clear and very, very simple and usable.
Yes, I believe that. I haven't read any of your books actually, but I deeply believe that, because I can hear it in the way you say things. It's like you're out there, boop, 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 yeah. That's it's very delicious to listen to. To be
Thank you so much. New paradigm is delicious. It is.
And I deeply hope that your book will come in audio form as well, so that me as a mama and all the other mamas where their hands tends to be a little occupied, right, can listen to it while we are being in the mother leadership. So if that's not on the board, that's a wish from my end.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to create it as an audio file as well. And I also have, I have my own podcast about luminary leadership. I'm considering making one about the future feminine because it's so dear to my heart. But I also do a lot of, online media, and I actually have a free series called The Future Feminine, where people can get a zest of it, which is also video, so you can listen to that while you breastfeed and all kinds of other things. We need to use all the means we have to remind each other, to bathe each other in this this
Mm.
message. And it's really the time for women has come. So it's really about stepping on it now. And I'm talking about all women on all the planet. You know, even those in the third world countries, they have made a huge difference for the rest of us by showing their strength. I mean, they're such role models. They have such stamina. I mean, my God, is these women, I mean, like, they should have a Nobel Prize every single day. They are so freaking strong and just like up against war and famine, and you know, they create their own business. I mean, I'm in awe. They are so amazing and really, really showing us, whoa, what's possible. So everybody counts.
That's so true. That's so true. Thank you so much for your voice and your wisdom and your heart and the way you share things. Your words are medicine, like truthfully. And I was reminded of many things during our conversation here. And I hope that those of you listening, those of you watching, no matter what portal you're choosing to tuning into, that you got exactly with you home as meant for today. I enjoyed so much talking to you, Angel. I cannot wait to listen to your book. And yes, I'll make sure to get the right links for the things you have shared here so that it's easy to find under the podcast, under the video afterwards.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to be in. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share what's close to my heart with your listeners and viewers. Is blessed. Thank you so much. And doing it even while you're pregnant and having a 2.5-year-old. So, you know, you're doing an amazing job. And I really, you know, honor you for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much.